You know, there are lots of things that I see that I like and I enjoy and that I will happily talk about and recommend. But it's been a while since I've seen something that I am going to recommend as vehemently, as unqualified, and with as much force as I'm going to recommend this. So I watched earlier today a documentary on Netflix. It's called Disclosure. And if I had the power to do so, I would make you, right now, go watch it. Like, stop this video, just go watch it. Don't ask me what it's about, go watch it. Because you should see it. I don't care who you are, you need to see it. Go see it. But knowing that some people will either have already seen it, or more likely are just going to sit there and go, you can't tell me what to do, which is true. I haven't completed the device yet. But what it's about is about transgender representation in media, which obviously is a topic I care about. It's a topic I talk about, mostly on the Council of Geeks channel, the big premiere of my more higher end stuff. Not so much here on the break room, but I mean, I don't become any less trans talking here than there, or even on the Vera Wild channel. So this is something that I obviously care a lot about, and it was something that, funnily enough, my mother recommended the documentary to me. She saw the trailer. She said, this looks like it could be good, and she brought it to my attention, which is just kind of nice for me. So here is the main thing that makes this special. Because this is not a film history 101. This is not dry. This is not Hollywood being self-congratulatory as far as how far it's come. That is obviously part of it. A lot of progress has been made in trans representation, especially in the last decade or so. But that's not the point of it. The one simple, brilliant thing that this documentary does is give voice to trans people. Because there's no narrator, and all of the people being interviewed, everything you hear is just the people being interviewed to talk about this. And every single person interviewed is trans. Even as they talk about various films, TV shows, and things like that, they don't talk to the writers, directors, actors of those films if those people are cis. They will talk about them, but it's about giving trans people their own voice to talk about the representation of them. And the fact that that struck me as being a surprise should kind of say a lot. Because as someone with a gender identity that I qualify under the umbrella term of trans, I'm not a trans woman. I still feel I need to clarify that, because I think some people still think I claim to be that, and I don't. But I'm definitely not a cis man. But in any case, I'm used to seeing trans people talked about with maybe one token actual trans person in the conversation, but then the conversation very much either led by or catered to cisgender people. I don't remember seeing these stories framed through the lens of the people that these stories are theoretically about actually talking about them. That was a brilliant thing. And it is an amazingly diverse group, which also is another reason that this should be seen, because in media, especially in news and a lot of things, first of all, trans women way more visible than trans men, despite the fact that the split between trans men and trans women is about 50-50, same as it is with cis people, but trans women get way more representation, and also white trans people get more representation. But the people that they brought in for this, it is an amazingly diverse group of people on every level. It is black trans people, it is white trans people, it is trans men, it is trans women, it is trans people of there's an Asian American trans person, and it's a diversity of occupations because you have actors and writers, producers, directors, some of whom I knew, some of whom I had never heard of before, and not all of whom are bringing the same point of view to the table. There's no massive disagreements in terms of the general, this is usually a better thing than that, this was rough, this was a step forward, but you will have a movie come up that had trans representation, and you will have one trans person talk about how much it spoke to them, and then another trans person who talked about how isolating it was for them to see that, or how much it hurt them to see it because of the way it's depicted, because trans people aren't a monolith. This is a brilliantly intersectional documentary. I was really impressed by this, and it can't be comprehensive because it would have to be a 40-hour series to be comprehensive, but it does touch on nearly everything that I would have thought of off the top of my head to at least touch on, if not drill into, plus a bunch of stuff that I didn't know, either because they are movies that I haven't seen or just elements of what was going on behind the scenes in Hollywood at the time, or things that were in the culture from before I have a conscious memory of the culture, because they go all the way back. They go back to silent films of D.W. Griffith, laying the foundation of a lot of trans representation for a long time. They talk specifically about black trans representation, about how black men, black male comics being put in dresses kind of became a tradition, and talking about that. It really runs the gamut. And while one could possibly argue that that means it can't really do a deep dive into any one specific aspect, I've never seen this be the topic with the voices of trans people from start to finish. So I don't care, because this is the overview. This is the introductory 101 that I needed. And I would argue, I did it. I said at the front end, everybody should watch this. Whether you are a trans ally, whether you are a trans person yourself, whether you take issue with trans people, everybody should watch this. And especially anybody who makes the argument that representation doesn't matter. Anyone who has ever said any variant of that, or says there's too many of these kinds of people on TV, because this thing, again, it covers not only how much representation there is, but how repetitive it is and has been for so long. How many trans women had their entire acting resume made up of hookers and murder victims. And it does not get overly sensational. You can see the emotion in these people as they talk about their lives and their concepts of themselves as formed by media while they were trying to figure themselves out, or figure out how best to express or not express themselves to the world that they lived in. You can see them get choked up. You can see eyes get watery, but it's not exploitative. Nobody breaks down. There's no, big, screaming. It's not overblown. It's all so genuine. And it is varied. And all of these voices are wonderful. And I discovered, just over the course of this documentary, so many trans voices that I hadn't heard before. And they don't strictly speak to my experience. I would actually say that my trans experience was not among the voices in there. But that is in no way a failing of this. This is a really well put together documentary. And if you care at all, well, no, I don't care. Even if you don't care, I don't care who you are. If you don't, at the end of this video, go and watch it, like immediately, then I don't know what to say to you. Because even if you think you already know, you should watch it. If you think you don't want to know, you should watch it. So, take the time, get a perspective, get a really brilliant, wonderful, varied look at what trans representation has been, where it's headed, and what hopefully it can be in the future. So, disclosure on Netflix. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Usual stuff, you know what it is. There's likes and subscribes, and I have a Patreon naturally, and I've got other channels and things like that. Links in the description, no pressure though. We take a relaxed attitude here. As insistent as I got, I'm still insisting. So, go give it a look, and then come on back next time you need a break.